comes to talk. 100.1 FM and AM 1020 KDKA.
They've actually given today a name, and they call it Quitter's Day. That people by now have said, you know what, I've given up on my goals for the year already. It's the 11th, 12th of January. And here we are with people already mailing it in for the rest of the year. That never happens with our next guest. As Carol Carpenter joins us right now, she has spent a lot of time doing a lot of different things, including a lot of television work. She also is an author of a book called The Elegant Disruptor. She has been a stunt woman. She has been a motorcycle road racer, and she now can add guest on KDKA Radio, the oldest radio station in America, to her long resume. Congratulations on that one, Carol.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm fantastic. How about you?
I'm guessing that the word quit is nowhere in your vocabulary.
No, I don't see quit. I see challenge and I see opportunity.
Is it just a matter of changing the words, or is it changing the way you think?
It is mindset for sure. And you're, reframing your perspective.
So do you remember the first time someone told you you couldn't do something? Do you remember, was there a touch point for you in the past that someone said, you know what, Carol, that ladies don't do that, or no, you're never going to get this book published, or no, I'm sorry, you're too tall, you're too you're too this, you're too that for this particular part. We're not going to cast you in chips. I mean, was there a time, was there something that really sets off in your mind when someone said you can't?
Well, I think my culture basically said I couldn't. So I lived with that every day of my life, and I wasn't going to become a victim of it. So if somebody said I couldn't, I'd be like, oh, well, I wonder why. And I would just do it because I had to find out for myself.
So what was it about? Which came first? Was it the writing and the acting, and then you decided you wanted to be a stunt woman and you wanted to race motorcycles, or do you race motorcycles and that made you into a stunt woman? Help me understand this timeline of your bio, because it's fascinating.
So I think it all started with my divorce. And then checking off a bucket list because my mother had passed away when she was 47. Mm-hmm. I was in my early 40s, and I was like, well, if this is all there is to life, I really haven't done much with it. Mm. So let's check off my bucket list. The first thing on it was learn to ride a motorcycle. And anybody that knows me well knows I don't do things, just a little. I go to the extreme, and I became a road racer. And from there, I noticed the fact that we didn't have very many women in the sport, and I wanted to change that.
And so then there had to be some, and maybe not, there had to be some times when you kind of looked yourself in the mirror and said, what in the world am I doing, right? I mean, yes?
Oh, without a doubt.
Okay,
oh my
all
God.
right. So it's
Every
not just a matter of ignoring
I thought I was crazy, too.
Yeah, okay. So you didn't just ignore it and say, because that would almost, you'd kind of wonder about your health or your sanity, right? I mean, at some point you have to question those things. But how do you do that without limiting yourself? How do you do it without limiting yourself?
You got to try. I mean, fear is only fear if you give it food, right? The more you think negatively, the more you're not going to do something. So don't even let the thought cross your mind.
So do you think that the negative self-talk actually comes from around us more than from ourselves?
I think it's a combination of both. I mean, it comes down to your past experiences and the way you were raised and what you actually believe. And those limiting beliefs are like an anchor in your life, and you've just got to break free of it. And the only person that can control it at the end of the day is you.
Had there been something when you were married that you felt like you didn't get a chance to do these bucket list things, or were you just so busy doing other things that you put off some of the things that you wanted to do? I mean, do we get stuck in a routine that we don't really ever get around to doing what we want to?
Yeah, I actually had a really vivid moment during my marriage, and I just thought, this is not the only thing I'm supposed to do. Like, my main goal is not just to be a mom. I'm here for another reason, and I had to go and explore that for myself.
So how do you get from that point to saying, I can do this, and it's not only a matter of learning how to ride a motorcycle, but then race a motorcycle, or to become a stunt woman, or to become an author? How do you take from step 1 to step 10?
Well, it all started with the motorcycle, and then becoming very good at it, and then getting noticed, and then, then it was a stunt woman, and then it was the acting, and then realizing, oh my God, the world's my oyster. I just never thought that I could do these things. And once you start doing it and you start succeeding at it, and I'm not going to say you're not going to fall on your face a few times, of course you are, but you learn from it. And as long as you're able to shake it off and not let it just consume you, I think that's the step 1.
So then how do we push through something like Quitter's Day? I mean, how do we get past something that has been thrown up as everybody's going to hear about it? Well, I'm not the only one, so it's okay. I can just stop doing. Do you see what I'm saying? I mean, how do we push through this day and get up tomorrow and try again?
Reflection. Why don't you start making a list of accomplishments, whether it's big or small, and remind yourself, man, I got through that. I succeeded. I pushed through. And I think just framing everything in a positive light versus, putting yourself up for failure. The minute you start believing those negative, things in your world or things you're trying to accomplish, you've already killed your ability to move forward.
You were born, I believe, to Taiwanese parents. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is the culture different? Meaning, did you learn things from your parents based on their cultural norms that were different than what we hear in the United States?
Well, I think I had a great disadvantage because I was born a female. And in our culture, the female doesn't perpetuate the lineage or the family line. Correct. So for me, the only thing I would, be set up for is to marry somebody from a prominent family that could provide for me. And so that was my, their expectation for me.
So if anything, it was more difficult being from a Taiwanese family than it was being an American then, right?
Yeah, but I was born in the States, so that kind of messed me up because I got to see everybody, have their freedoms, and I couldn't understand why I couldn't have them too.
So if somebody is struggling right now and saying, you know what, I've not gotten off to a good start as far as getting done my goals already for 2024, what do you say to them as they're driving down the parkway in their car right now here in Pittsburgh?
Pick it up, do it again. And find out why. Because sometimes it's just the simple question of asking yourself, why am I struggling with this? Because it could be more deep rooted than that. And once you can overcome the answer to the why, I think then at that point you can really figure out, kind of unlock that key, and that lock, and then the world's your oyster. Once you can overcome it, you just got to figure out why you're keeping yourself from succeeding.
Well, if you want to know more about Carol Carpenter, more about her work, more about her book, which is called The Elegant Disruptor, Breaking Through Barriers and Limiting Beliefs to Success, check it all out at carolcarpentermedia.com. Carol, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Rick.
And if you would, just go ahead and put, appeared on KDKA radio right at the top of your bio, because it'll speak to people. I promise. It'll get you gigs.
Will do.
All right. Thank you, Carol. We'll talk again soon.
Thank you.
Sure appreciate it. The Elegant Disruptor, Breaking Through Barriers, Limiting Beliefs to Success. The name of her book, carolcarpentermedia.com. It's 3:17 right now. Checking on traffic from the PJ Fitzgerald.